So let's move on to the next step. So next step is we need to install the DNS server role on our Windows 2022 DC system. So why do we require to install DNS server? Because we need to promote this Win 2022 DC system as a domain controller first. But before that, before Active Directory domain controller role installation, we have to install the DNS server role as a prerequisite. So I will come back to my DC system and I will open server manager. And I will say add roles and features. Next. Make sure it is showing the correct hostname and correct IP, and I will choose DNS server. Add rules. Next, install. It's a straightforward procedure. So it will take 2 minutes or so to install it. So I'm just pausing this video for a while. Once this installation gets completed, I'm coming back to you with the next step. So now you can see the DNS role has been installed successfully. So I'm just closing this particular window and I'm restarting the system once. Since we have installed one major role, it is always advisable to restart your system. If it is a Windows system, of course. It will just take 1 minute. So and let's take the IDP again. So by the time it is logging on, let's move on to the next step. Yeah, it's logged on. So let's move on to the next step. We have completed this step number 37. So DNS server and restart the system. This is what we have just done. Okay. So next step is through DC system server manager DNS, we need to configure our forward lookup zone as a primary zone and reverse lookup zone for 192.168.1.x range. Okay. So I will come back here and through server manager I will open tools DNS. I will expand this and in the forward lookup zone I will say new zone. Next, primary zone. Next, I will just give some specific name FW. That's fine. Next, and finish. Okay, so forward lookup zone has been created. Next, I will create one reverse lookup zone also. Next, primary zone. Next, IP4, of course we are not using IP6, and we need to give the first 3 octets of our network ID. So 192.168.1, that's it, and I will say next. Okay, next, do not allow, that's fine. Next and finish. So we have created our forward lookup zone and reverse lookup zone. This is just a prerequisite for installing our Active Directory. Okay, and now since we have done some major changes in DNS, I will say restart my DNS service. Okay, so this step is completed over here. So next step is we need to install the Active Directory domain services role now. Since we have completed our DNS installation and configuration, so we will install Active Directory domain services role on our WinDC system. So I will come back to my DC system and I will close this DNS console, and through server manager I will say next next, and Active Directory domain services, add features, next, next, install. Okay, so it will take 2 minutes. I'm just pausing this video. Once this is completed, I'm coming back to you. So this particular role, ADDS role has been completed, installation succeeded, but it still requires configuration. That we will do. I will say close, and as I said earlier, restart the machine once you are doing any major change. Okay, so this particular step we have just completed. By the time it is restarting, let's move on to the next step. So next step is, now we need to promote this particular server to our domain controller as a new forest and a new domain controller. So forest will be ESX lab.local and our domain controller will be WIN2022DC.ESXlab.local. This will be the FQDN. Okay, so coming here and again logging with the local admin first. And after the login, we will promote this server as our domain controller. Now role installation and promoting a domain controller are two different steps. Unlike the previous versions of 2000 or 2003, where DC Promo is doing everything in a one step, now it is been bisected into two steps. So now I'm opening the server manager. And now you can see over here there is a yellow triangle. Click on that and say promote this server to a domain controller. Okay, so it will walk you through the domain promotion wizard. I will say add new forest and I will give a name like ESX lab dot local. Okay, say next. It will take 1 minute or so. So the forest functional level and domain functional level, we don't want to change anything as of now over here. And here we need to specify the directory services restore mode, DSRM. In case of your AD got crashed or you want to recover it in any scenario, so this password will be required. So I will put the password over here. Next, DNS option, we don't want to change anything. Next, NetBIOS name, it will take as a default one, ESX lab. NetBIOS name is required if you are having older versions of operating systems like Windows 7, Windows XP. Those ones will be requiring a NetBIOS naming convention. So let it be like the default one. Next, let the default paths of installation be like that only. We don't want to change anything. Next, and finally it will ask us to review these options and say next. It will check the prerequisites. Once the prerequisites have been passed, it will proceed with the installation. You must be wondering why we are installing all this domain controller, since we need to learn the ESX, but you will get that answer later on once we are actually going for the ESX infra installation and all. So now you can see all prerequisite checks passed successfully, and I will say install. So it will take 2 minutes or so. So I'm pausing this video, and once this is completed, it will automatically restart my system also. We don't have to restart it manually, it will automatically restart. So once this is completed and it is automatically restarted, I will come back to you with the next step. Okay, so our Active Directory domain controller has been promoted to our DC as first forest and first domain controller. Now we need to again relog in using our local administrator account, but it will be not a local administrator, it will be a domain administrator. So it will not take my administrator and password over here. You can see over there logon item failed. So I will say more choices over here, use different account, and I will put it like this: ESX lab.local and then administrator and then the password. Okay, and I will say yes over here. So now I have logged in as a domain administrator through my RDB session. Okay, by the time it is logged in, let's move on to the next step. Now we have promoted this machine as an domain controller. We need to verify this particular FQDN so that we will confirm that our domain controller promotion is been successful. So let's wait for this one. First time it may take some time because group policy client and other settings needs to be loaded for the first time. Okay, so we have logged in with our administrator account, domain administrator account, and let's see whether our domain promotion has been successful or not. So I'll go to the system properties, I'll go to the advanced settings. Just for this site, just for best performance already there, and now you can see my FQDN has been changed. So this is my first name, then my domain name. So our domain promotion is successful. So this is how you can confirm your domain promotion. Okay, let's move on to the next step. So next step is through Windows 2022 DC system, server manager, Active Directory, users and computers, we need to create a new user as ESX admin. Okay, so I'll cancel this, close this, open the server manager, and you can see all the Active Directory related MMCs have been loaded since we have promoted this server to domain controller. So I will go to the Active Directory, users and computers. I will expand this domain container and then users. Right click on user container and say new and then user. So I will give the first name and then the user logon name for the new user. So user logon name is ESX admin, first name also I am keeping the same. Okay, and remember your user logon name is not case sensitive, password is case sensitive. Okay, so I will say next, then I will just assign one specific password. I will remove this user must change because I don't want to change, and then password never expires. This is fine. I will say next and I will say finish. So this new password user has been created and password also assigned. Let's move on to the next step. Now we need to add this ESX admin user in below groups in order to make it as a master domain account or a second administrator account. So in a production environment, it is always advisable not to use your original administrator account. Always create additional account and give as many rights as you want. Okay, so I need to add this ESX admin in 3 groups. First is domain admins, second is enterprise admins, and third is schema admins. So I will right click and I will say add to group. Here I will just type domain admins, enterprise admins, and schema admins. I will say OK. Right. Let's move on to the next step. Now we need to log off from the current administrator account and log in with the newly created ESX admin domain admin account. Okay, so I will close this. I will log off from here, sign out. Okay, come back to my desktop, open your RDP again, and I will say connect. Now I don't want to log in with the administrator, so I will say more choices, use a different account, and here I will put it like this: ESX lab.local / ESX admin and then password. And now we have logged in with the ESX admin account. Okay, I hope I am clear up to this point. These are all basic steps. We have not started our ESX installation yet, but we will start it sooner now. But this is all the lab setup what we need to complete before going on. So in order to make it clear to you guys again one more time, I will open my lab setup, which I have already explained in the previous part, but still I will reopen. And now we have configured this machine, let's say 80%. We have given the host name WIN2022DC, then the hardware configuration is already there, and we have installed our Active Directory domain controller role on this particular machine, and we have created one master domain account also called ESX admin. Okay, let's move on to the, let me close this one. Let's move on to the next step. We need to disable our Windows Defender firewall for domain network settings also, because we have previously disabled only 2 settings of domain controllers, Windows firewall. Now we need to disable the third category also. So you can see over here the domain networks, the Windows firewall is on, so I will turn off also. Why I am turning off everything? Because I don't want any network connectivity glitch or any network connectivity restriction. Okay, but in production, as I said earlier, you are not supposed to turn off your Defender firewall unless you are having a dedicated antivirus or firewall software. Go for your network settings with appropriate ports open for your network communication. Okay, so this is done. I'll close this. Let's move on to the next step. So next step is a bit important one. Try to understand what I'm doing over here. I'm creating DNS records for 3 systems: NS, host records, DNS records for 3 systems. Okay, what are those 3 systems? ESX host 01 and its IP will be 192.168.1.7. Then ESX host 02 192.168.1.16, and then vCenter server 192.168.1.25. Okay, so these 3 records, why I am creating, because I want this ESX host should be communicating with my Active Directory domain controller or with my network using its host name also and IP also, because maybe iSCSI target server I will be using a host name, maybe for some purpose I will be using FQDN, not the actual IP, whatever it could have been. But these NS records are always preferable to be created for better network connectivity with your Active Directory or with your Windows systems. So that's why I'm creating these 3 records. So how to create those ones? You need to go to the server manager DNS forward lookup zone, and then ESX lab.local option. So I will go back to my DC system and I will open my server manager, and I will click on tools and I will click on DNS. Now I will expand my DNS server. I will go to the forward lookup zone, expand that, and go to your domain controllers forward lookup zone, which has been created automatically by Active Directory. Okay, so this container, and then we need to create the 3 NS host records. Okay, so what I will do is I will right click on this. Here also you can right click, or here also you can right click and say new host A record. Okay, so here I will put the first record name ESX host 01 and then IP address, of my ESX host 01, and I need to create the associated pointer record also. Okay, so create associated pointer record. Click on this and say add host. Okay, now 2 more records I need to create, so I am just creating it. So ESX host 02 and IP will be now 192.168.1.16, and what will be the full FQDN for this is ESX host 02.esxlab.local. Okay, add host, and now the third and the last one, vCenter server, and IP will be 192.168.1.25. okay, and create associated pointer record. We'll say add. Okay, done over here, and now these 3 records have been created. Okay, why do you require these records? Because we need an FQDN connectivity or a proper DNS connectivity with our network for these 3 systems. Okay, I hope I am clear with this step. Now let's move on. So now, since we have done some changes into DNS server, we need to restart the DNS server service. So I will right click on this DNS server, all task, restart. Okay. Now there is a note that above step is essential for proper network and DNS connectivity between ESX hosts, vCenter server and Active Directory domain controller, as I have explained you before. Okay, so this note specifically I have put in to make sure that you will understand why this particular step is required.